Hi, everybody. I am really pleased to introduce you to Johnny. And Johnny, I do not want to mispronounce your last name. So, in the interest of getting it right, help me with it. How do you say your last
Yeah, it's Ramachandran.
Ramachandran? Johnny,
Pretty easy.
Johnny Ramachandran, I'm honored to have on our program. And Johnny is running for the open 18th district seat in a special election that comes up on the 29th. And Johnny, this is your platform, and everybody who watches this knows how we roll. It's very little of me and a lot of her. Johnny, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Sunny. My name is Janani Ramachandran. I'm a social justice attorney, an activist, a former Oakland Public Ethics Commissioner, and a proud resident of Oakland's beautiful District 2. And I'm running for state assembly because California doesn't need just another corporate Democrat. It's time for a bold leader who is going to fight for true progressive reforms and stand up to the undue influence of corporate power. My grandparents immigrated to the United States from small South Indian villages without a dollar a degree, just a dream of giving their kids a better life. And thanks to the strength of their labor unions, they were able to gain economic stability, healthcare, a stable pension. But that so-called American dream does not exist anymore. Half of Californian families living in poverty actually work a full-time job. 1 in 3 Californians don't have real health care, and 3 million can't afford to pay rent next month. Which is why I'm not running just to say things theoretically like healthcare or housing is a human right. I want to fight for actionable policy changes, starting with tenant protections to allow people to stay in their neighborhoods and not be displaced because of gentrification. I want to fight for a 10-year comprehensive plan to address homelessness, which has risen right here in Oakland by over 50% in the past 3 years. In contrast, most other major American metropolitan areas have seen their homelessness population decline. I want to work towards economic opportunity, living wages starting at $22 an hour, and equity in contracting. I want to work towards ending qualified immunity for police officers who cause harm and reinvest in the community violence interventions, including the nonprofits I've worked with over the years right here in Oakland. And finally, I want to address not just climate change and lowering emissions, but doing so with a racial equity lens, particularly for communities here in West and Deep East Oakland. And to do these things, we don't need someone who's just wanting to run to be a politician. I want to run because I'm inspired by the communities that I'm from and those that I work with. What drives me to run are all of the teen moms and immigrant moms I provided direct services to who are experiencing domestic violence and homelessness. What drives me are seeing victims of violence be criminalized by our so-called justice systems, seeing families be ripped apart because of CPS and ICE and their horrific policies. What drives me are all the people that I've worked with experiencing mental health crises who have been failed by our public health system and criminalized for their own mental health issues. But what drives me right now, especially during the pandemic, is working with elderly tenants in Oakland who are being evicted from their homes, most of whom have not missed a single day of rent. And so I want to fight to take action and respond to the needs of members of our communities that are being most left out by our state government. I'm proud to be the only Oakland candidate in this race, and to have the support of groups rooted in Oakland, including the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club, Wellstone Democratic Club, Oakland Tenants Union, Our Revolution, the East Bay Times, multiple former Oakland City Council members, Indivisible, Sunrise Movement, and a whole bunch of others. So thanks for having me. Happy to respond to any questions or chat.
Hey, what was the aha moment where you said, doggone it, I'm going to run?
Yeah. As I mentioned, I was working with elderly tenants who were facing eviction during the pandemic. And that inspired me in my legal career. And that inspired me to join statewide advocacy movements to fight for a stronger eviction moratorium and rent relief program. But when I was in mostly virtual Zoom rooms sharing the stories of people who are experiencing pain and evictions and homelessness and all of that, a lot of our supposedly progressive lawmakers said, yeah, we agree, that's really sad. But no, we're not going to do anything about it because the landlord lobbies are too strong or the developer lobbies are too strong. And that's something that I never want to say, that I'm not going to try because the powerful special interests are too strong. I'm never going to use that excuse. No, I'm not going to be able to successfully enact every policy I introduce, but damn it, I'm going to try.
How's your thought about our COVID situation and how the governments have handled it so far?
I think COVID has brought to light the inequalities in our healthcare system, in our economic justice, in supporting small businesses that have long existed before the pandemic, but we're seeing much more stark right now. One of the things I did at the start of the pandemic was volunteer with the program that helps small businesses in Oakland apply for federal CARES Act relief funds and some of the federal and state loans. And it was so apparent the kinds of businesses that were able to take advantage of these programs versus those that were left out. And I recognize that the same thing happened when it came to our rental relief. The large big real estate developers, many of whom are not even from California, let alone from Oakland, were the first ones to take advantage of the rental relief program, leaving out the small landlords, the small nonprofit landlords, or mom and pop landlords who didn't know about these pools of money and were unable to take advantage of it. So I think economically, our state government has done an extremely poor job making sure there's equity and economic relief. Similarly, with healthcare, we know who were the first people to get vaccines and to get access to testing and which communities were left out. There were churches in West Oakland and neighborhoods that were majority Black who opened up for vaccines, but yet the first people to get vaccines in those same churches were white community members, not at all in West Oakland. And this inaccessibility in healthcare, our economy, schools, of course, school closures, who has access to technology, who doesn't, who does remote learning work okay for, and who's being left out. I mean, those are disparities that are really coming to light during the pandemic, and our state government has not done enough to address them.
Tell us about where you're from and who are you?
Yeah. I was born and raised in the East Bay. I was born in Fremont. I mostly grew up there. I first entered thinking about
what high school?
So that actually, I was about to get to that. I went to high school in India.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I moved there for high school, where I started thinking deeply about public service. I started a nonprofit over there that built libraries in neighboring under-resourced schools. Came back to the Bay, went to Stanford, graduated, and then did home visiting case management services.
Sorry, just kidding.
Yeah. So after college, I worked at a community health clinic for a few years doing home visiting case management services, with teen moms, immigrant moms, people experiencing homelessness, domestic violence. I would meet people in shelters, hotel rooms, wherever they were at a given moment. And the kinds of things that I saw going into people's homes in absolute crisis made me realize that I want to do something in my life to make sure that no human has to experience these circumstances ever again, which led me to law school. I went to Berkeley, but was, living in Oakland the whole time. Berkeley Law was great. I did have to go to some classes, but I was able to do a lot of community legal aid work the entire time I was there.
Ask real quick, what was your favorite class? Because I sat on a torts class. I came that close to going to California.
Criminal procedure was a really fascinating class. It was taught by our dean, Erwin Chemerinsky, who is great, but it's not because the details of the laws, but things that's important for me to know and for people that I work with to know. What are your rights when you get stopped? What's a arrest versus a seizure versus stop? What are your rights? What can you say versus what do you not have to say in a given moment? And Especially at Berkeley, most of our professors didn't just tell us to accept this is a law, this is the history of rulings that have happened, but encouraged us to challenge it every step of the way. And our dean, Chemerinsky, was extremely, extremely good about, especially when it comes to criminal procedure and criminal law, making sure we're questioning every single one of these rulings so that in one way or another, we could all work towards changing them.
And what are your thoughts about Oakland coming out of the pandemic? What problems do you see that if you're elected, you would like to correct?
Firstly, economic opportunity. There have been so many minority-owned small businesses that have been decimated during the pandemic. I think it's close to 40+% throughout California. And like I mentioned before, many did not get a share of federal or state funding for small businesses. So I would prioritize businesses that were most heavily affected by COVID. So restaurant industry, grocery stores, hospitality industry, salons, things like that. But I also want to promote programs to support entrepreneurship. I mean, we've also seen as people have gotten laid off from jobs and other places that there's been a growth of creativity in homegrown businesses. And I think we need to support having the infrastructure to allow them to grow and thrive rather than just be these one-off projects. Economic development, creating jobs. I mentioned I care about the environment and environmental justice. I think implementing a Green New Deal can create hundreds of thousands of well-paid jobs. Similarly to the kinds of jobs that we have at the Port of Oakland, 85,000 well-paid, mostly unionized jobs that we should protect and allow to grow.
And as we move to a close out of interest for the time we set up, say to constituents why they should support you as opposed to someone else.
Yeah, because I'm not a politician. I'm a community advocate. I'm brutally honest. I don't have any special interest groups whispering in my ears. The only people that I am accountable to are you, voters. And that's why you should support me. I am going to be an independent thinker. I'm going to be honest and shamelessly true to the values that I hold right now, and I'm going to fight for when in office.
And in closing, will you be the first Indian candidate to win if it comes out? Is that the case?
I would be the first woman of South Asian descent to serve in our state legislature. In fact, Kamala Harris is the only woman of South Asian descent that has held any kind of statewide public office. But yeah, I'd be the first here.
Let me ask what might sound like a dumb question, but what does that mean to you?
It means, I think it's exciting. It means representation. It shows that California is diverse. And there are a lot of aspects of my identity that showcase diversity. I would be the first South Asian woman. I would be the first API LGBTQ woman. I would be 1 out of 3 tenants. We have 120 lawmakers, only 2 right now are tenants, which goes to show why we have anti-tenant laws coming out of our state government and pro-landlord laws. 40% of our lawmakers aren't just homeowners, but they own multiple rental properties. So, these are the lenses of my experiences that I am going to bring forward and showcase a different voice.
What's your website so that we can tell people and find out more about you?
Yeah, www.janani4ca.com. And Janani.
I'm actually writing it when I get that and post it, so making sure that I spell it correctly. It's
all my social media handles too. Janani4ca.
And guess what? I believe I found it. Yeah. So I'm going to post this as the correct URL, and if not, we can, in the digital media parlance, we can fix it in a jiffy, like that.
Cool.
It works. So there you are, folks, and you got to come back and talk some more.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Stick around in the back end round, folks. That will end this broadcast. Stay tuned later for more on Howard Terminal. Subscribe to Zenny62, and please bookmark Oakland News Now. www.jananiramachandran.com.